My role with the ATP, the professional tennis, is that I'm the senior medical director for professional tennis. I was the physical therapist, athletic trainer during the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. I covered short track speed skating, downhill skiing, and then figure skating as well. And then I did in the Paralympics, I did sledge hockey. And then also over in London, I was doing the physical therapy for the tennis in London and also in Rio. With that said, love to open this up to as many of you guys and answer as many questions that you have about prehab, about exercise, about injury prevention. Doing cross training is actually very, very good. They've done a lot of studies with cross training and what you're going to do in the off season. During your off season, if you have a break for a month at the end of the season where you say, hey, you know what, I'm done with, let's say you play soccer, let's say you play tennis, let's say you're in rugby. Would I probably do that during the off season? To an extent, yes, I would, but doing a cross training of a different sport, let's say it's kayaking or whatever else, to develop these other muscles in the shoulder would be very, very useful. A biomechanical screening, depending on what type of sport that you do, if you're going to do soccer, for instance, would I be looking at hamstring length? Would I be doing hip mobility stuff? 100%. And that same thing involves with skiing. That same thing involves with tennis, because you need to have enough mobility in these other joints. Otherwise, the risk of injury is going to go up later on down the road. So I think having a proper biomechanical screening from lower body to upper body is always useful. You don't need to do that every single week, but maybe it could be once a year or maybe every 6 months. Honestly, like the overtraining at a young age is definitely detrimental. You have to watch that, because sometimes, whether it's coaches, whether it's parents, whether it's the player itself, some of the kids just say, hey, Dad, I want to keep throwing baseball. Well, in baseball or tennis or anything else of like, especially in baseball, they have a pitch count, and it depends on the age and everything else, and it's a pitch count per week. Should you cross that barrier and say, no, you're at risk for a shoulder and elbow problem with an improper pitch count? So looking at those are very, very crucial to actually determine, because that actually, no matter if you have the correct biomechanics and the strength, but if you're overstressing a joint, a ligament, a muscle, you're at a huge risk of injuring your body. And then you look at some of these people, like the kids that have Tommy John surgery in baseball, and you look about, can it be prevented? And some of them could be, maybe some couldn't, maybe because of the biomechanics. But regardless, you still need to address those kind of concerns. Again, it's another adjunct to recovery or to therapy. Is it a one and all and done thing? I wouldn't definitely not to say, hey, I'm going to do the Theragun and the Normatec and the Hypervolts and everything else, and then I don't need anything else. This is I think it's a good thing for people that are traveling and don't have people to work on, don't have people to actually do some soft tissue work on their muscles and stuff like that. So I think it can be effective. Don't overdo this, because anything else, like if you were to overdo training in, I don't care what sport it is, if I say, hey, I want you to run soccer, I want you to run on the field for the next 5 hours, you'd say, that's crazy. I'm going to be having problems. That's not useful. Same thing with tennis or skiing or anything else. Same thing with the hypervolts and everything else. I wouldn't necessarily just beat up one muscle for 40 minutes and then say, I'm really sore. Well, that's normal to be that sore after something like that. So be in relative, think about that when you're on this. And I think if you look at it in a lot of sports, especially in tennis, the average age of retirement has gone up. For a couple of years ago, it was up like extra 4 years before they used to, because of everything that we're talking about: rehab, strength training, conditioning, everything else.